This is the Wenning Strength Podcast brought to you by WenningStrength.com and WenningStrengthMedia.com. For custom equipment, apparel, personal training, and seminar information, visit WenningStrength.com. To purchase any of Matt's training manuals or digital seminars and video training guides, visit WenningStrengthMedia.com.
Similar to me is like I didn't really even realize it was a thing. Like all my family, coal miners and steel workers, they all lift weights. Yeah. So, but no one ever thought it could be a job, right? So I always
a hobby.
Yeah, it's a hobby, and they're coming home after 15-hour shifts and they're steel toes and benching 315 or whatever. I mean, my stepdad, I'd watch him work like 15 hours and then be in the basement just unracking 300 with his feet in the air and just like getting at the end of shift. And I was like,
and those blue collar guys understand the value of strength. Like you got to be strong to do those jobs. You're not going to last.
Absolutely, and just understanding that could be a job one day. I mean, the only guy that I knew that owned the gym locally, he still had another job.
Yeah.
So it never became like a real thing, especially where in the Steubenville area I'm from. It's like, I was just like, man, this could be possible.
We'll go ahead and start the intro and we'll rock it.
You guys have already started the podcast.
Oh, have we?
You guys already go? Welcome once again to the Wenning Strength Podcast from Columbus, Ohio. In the studio today we have Cory Gregory. And take it away, Matt.
Yeah. So, I mean, we knew of each other for a long time, but it's crazy that we've lived in the same city for forever.
Yeah.
And finally now just getting to do stuff, do stuff together and get to see a facility.
Yeah, thanks for having me in, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
So what I wanted to do was kind of go over your background because it shares a lot of similarities to my background. So tell us what you did right out of high school.
Yeah, so once I got out of high school, before I started coal mining, I actually stacked lumber. So I got a job at a sawmill that a lot of my friends' parents were at, and I was going to community college from 8 to 12, hating every second of it because I didn't know what I wanted to do except for I knew I liked to lift weights. That's about it, and no one had a job for me at that point. And then I stacked lumber from 1 to 10, and I was in that cycle for a little while. And then what started happening was I started skipping the class to go train. So then I would go to my job. And my stepdad my mom had just remarried like about a year before that. He said, you know what, man? He goes, I see you doing that, but I was making like $7-8 an hour. He's like, are you interested in coal mining? He had been a coal miner since he was like 18 years old. So
and what part of the country is this in?
So this is in like the Cadiz, Ohio is where the mine is, which is in like, only about an hour from Pittsburgh, right on that borderline.
So East Ohio.
Eastern Ohio. And so, my stepdad, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, it's a four generation thing. And so I was like, how much is the starting pay? And he was like, it's $14 an hour. It's $21.
Almost double.
Yeah, double, $21 an hour overtime, and he'll never say no because we have so much work.
Wow.
Especially for, a pretty strong kid that, is willing to do as much as is offered. And dude, I was logging between 80 and 90. My top one was 93 hours on a pay. And when I say that, people go, oh, every 2 weeks. I'm like, no, motherfucker, it was a week.
1 week.
So I was stacking for 6 months. I was stacking paychecks because I literally wasn't even around when the bank was open.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. I was telling the guys at the gym.
It was hard for you to even get to the bank to cash your checks.
All I did was fucking work out and fucking work. And that's all I cared about because I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to save this money so I can go try to live my dream as a personal trainer, gym owner. Yeah. And I remember like going to see my wife now, my girlfriend at the time. I came out of quitting time one day, Matt, it was like 4 o'clock, which was really weird. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to drive to Cleveland. My eyes were watering so bad. I hadn't seen the fucking sunlight in like 3 weeks.
Wow.
Literally. Yeah. I would be on the cage at 5, which is the elevator to go 600 feet underground. I would work, doubles. I'd come out at 9, 10 o'clock.
Wow.
And fucking, dude, I hadn't saw the sunlight.
It's so crazy how similar we are because when I graduated high school, I didn't do well in high school and I got pushed into vocationals. But my family is all welders. So I loved working with steel.
Sure.
And I loved welding, and I already knew how to weld, but I didn't have a cert. So the first thing I did was I realized that Purdue University was having a welding certificate class at Ball State. And it was a 1-semester thing, so it was 15 weeks. So I ended up getting my certification and then got hired on at the hospital as a welder and maintenance. Gotcha. So what ended up happening was, why this is similar, is that the first thing they wanted to do is they had a ton of old steam lines that were connected in the old buildings, and they wanted them all cut out, and they were all under the tunnels. So from about 5 in the morning till 5 or 6 at night, we were under there cutting out all of these old chill water lines and steam lines.
That's cool.
To make room for the new. This is when computers started to get big.
Sure.
For all the new computer lines,
okay.
right? So we were underground, not 400 feet.
Yeah.
But I was the same way. I remember on some weekends we would have off. I'd get out and see the sunlight.
It's like Dracula,
It
bro.
was fucking kill you.
Yeah.
And then you're used to being in, having a t-shirt on and shorts felt like another universe. And, but what the point was on all that is in the first 6 months that I did that work, there was so much to cut out and so much to do that you could work as much as you wanted. So in 6 months, I saved up enough to pay for 4 years of college.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The opportunity, and my stepdad's actually getting ready to retire in 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been there, I mean, just
a long time.
Yeah, man, long time. And so I'm super proud, like pumped that he's about to retire. But I'm always so thankful for the opportunity because I don't know that I would amass enough money.
Yep.
And my family couldn't. I mean, I grew up in a trailer. The rent was $150 a month. So like, there's no way they could help me to come up here and move away and those type of things. So like, I'm just real blessed to have the opportunity, and I took every advantage of every overnight shift. And I would get to this point, like when I would start to like run into stuff, or like basically like I was so like I was so tired that it was time to go home, so I'd hurt myself.
Yep.
I would work basically to that point. I just knew if I could just get my brain like that.
Yeah. We've heard similar stories from other guests, like Kaz. Kaz talked about being abused in the woods, and a whole other story.
I'm not sure where you're going there.
Yeah, no. So here's my question, because, I mean, both of you bring this up. Where did that work ethic come from? Because I think it's important for listeners because you carry it through.
Him, and me, and I can speak for myself, not as you. You don't realize there's another fucking choice. It's not that we're better than everybody else. And you're always looking for the next thing to get you better. And that's where I think people get fucked up, is they find something that they like, or they have to deal with, say, like a coal mining job, but they're never looking for the next step up. Like for him, he was working that, like he's talking about, saving his money and looking for a place to move to get better at what he really wanted to do.
Yeah.
I think it all starts with passion.
Transition out of it.
It all starts with passion.
Yeah.
Your passion was in weights. Mine were in weights.
It was like I think I saw it from my grandfather, from my stepdad, from everybody kind of around me. This is just what they did. Mm-hmm. So like that's the norm, right? That they get up early, they come home late. And so when I was like, all right, but I think when I actually went to the job with my stepdad and actually watched how he worked, and sometimes I was able to work alongside him, and other times I had different bosses, whatever it was, I just got to see like, all right, he's doubling on his last day of the pay. Like he had the whole strategy to how he's made really good money. And because he kind of came later in my life, that was kind of part of us, even though he's a weightlifter too, just kind of understanding that whole thing. And I was like, man, if I just apply this to what I like, and no one's going to have this story. When I moved to the city, motherfuckers are going to have this story. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to be completely different than everyone else. And I've always understood marketing and storylines, and I got better at it as social media came up, and I understood like that's going to make me so different than everyone, and they have to respect it. How could you fucking not?
Yeah. And not only that, as far as that goes, you're probably the most successful person in the city. I mean, as far as
I don't know about that, man,
but for marketing and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
there's other guys that do that kind of shit, but I'm telling you, if you go to another country or another state, everybody knows you. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's a big respect thing as far as how you've been able to push yourself and make these different businesses, and I think that's really badass.
I mean, it's really because I don't like to do anything else.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, people thought I was fucked.
There's no choice. So he knew he wanted to get that good at that stuff. I had the powerlifting and all that other. But the thing of it is you never look at it as you have options. You only know you want to be at the top, and you're going to do whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah, I just always used to. People thought I was crazy. I used to say these things like, I'd be in that trailer, man. I'd just be like, I'm just better than this. Like I'm meant to do big things. I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm not going to settle for it. Yep. And I ascended to a level that I could never even have dreamed of. Man.
I never knew how poor we grew up until I got older.
Yeah,
I never knew how hard my mom had to work.
Well, until you're around other people.
At 13.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And my dad, probably when he died, my mom was a nurse practitioner, but he was making more money than her. But then my sister was born with a congenital heart defect where her heart's backwards.
Oh, wow.
Right? And she's the oldest living person that they know of with this heart issue. She's still alive at 35. But, I mean, that made my mom, financially destroyed.
Of course.
Because she'd already had 3 open heart surgeries by the time she was 12. I mean, you're talking, that's 150, 200 grand every time they crack you open.
Yeah.
So I never realized when I was younger how much my mom had to budget. Mm-hmm. And I watched her get her ass up super early, run an entire surgical unit, and then come home super late.
There's the answer. You saw it.
Yeah, I saw the work ethic.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that's how it's learned. That's why, with my kids, even though their experience of life is way different than mine, but they still see that dad's a fucking maniac workaholic. I mean, it's just what it is.
I mean, you don't have to get up at 4 a.m. to train, but you do.
No,
and that's probably the coal miner badass
Dude,
in you.
I fucking love it because here's what I love about that. And you know how it is. You've had
Not to cut you off, but
no.
You're the only other person I know that does, the only other person I know that does that's Michael Hearn.
Yeah, and I beat him because I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get up at 3. So I tell his ass that
He
too.
wins. He's proud, Michael Hearn, you're a bitch.
So I think it's like, he always says, I see your shit whenever I wake up.
Yep.
But I think what I like, so my original crew was at 5.
Yep.
And I had like 5 guys that were serious. When I moved it to 4, it changed everything. 1, it weeds out every motherfucker that ain't serious.
Yeah.
Because you can't have half your foot in the bar and half your foot in the gym.
No.
And
you got to be in bed by 8 or 9 o'clock to have a great day.
you have to be in bed by 9 to 10 at the latest. And basically it went from 5 people to like 20.
Wow.
And I have guys like right now I've got 2 of my main 165s. One's driving from Marysville and one's driving from Dayton every day. Similar to like how they used to do that shit at Westside,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I drove from Indiana to go lift at Louis' place in 99 to 04, and it was a 2.5-hour drive to squat with a bunch of dudes that wanted to kill you.
Yeah,
And then drive back home and go, why the fuck did I do this? For like 4 years, you know?
But that's part of, so I've got now, I would say, I really believe that our 14 or 15 main guys, and we do all the drug tested meets, I really think I have the strongest team that I'm aware of, top to bottom. And the numbers that will show in sanctioned meets this year, I can't wait to see. Because my 181 just pulled 650 raw. I got a 220 that walked out 635. I just had my 165 just squatted 405 front squat, no wraps, 440 this morning. 12 guys at front squatting over 405. A bunch of guys hitting elite. Like, dude, I'm super proud of it.
Yeah.
And these guys, some of these guys are walking in the gym. You could barely back squat 315, bro. And that's
it's
the
not
one
like
thing.
it's not like you were hand selected
No,
like we were.
dude. And, we're really building our lifters, and that's why I've done a lot of gym meets these guys have competed in. We have a great atmosphere that's fucking pretty wild, and it's very similar to the atmosphere I've seen at Westside, just in a different manner. But dude, the reason why I like Tony Ramos and George Halbert and all these guys I learned from, they're fucking crazy, and I've never been wired right either. So it's like,
and they got that switch. I think they got that switch where they can be some of the most mellow, calm people you ever see, but as soon as they hit the door of that gym, it's like just turned into fucking animals. And like these guys see that, and I think they were even talking to my training partner Rob was talking to the intern about how I have a switch.
Right, you
I'm
have
going to
to
be the most mellow guy in the world, and then I'll put fucking 700 on a squat bar, and I just turn into a fucking animal.
Dude, I've made 100-pound jumps and fucking meets and shit before, and the guys I train with like, what the? I'm like, dude, I just fucking loaded up. That's why I came. Like, that's why I haven't talked to my daughter about that. She's in gymnastics. She's actually competing in Indiana in French Lick.
Tomorrow,
and which is a 6-hour drive or something.
Yeah, it's far.
And I talked to her about like we show up, like it's a family thing. It's not just like a thing. Like you prepare and you elevate when it's time. Because motherfuckers, they back down. Not me. Like, I show the fuck up. And I pride myself on that, whether it's I'm trying to get Arnold as my business partner, whether I've got to take a fucking PR on the platform. And I got a lot of that from Ramos. He's like, look, motherfucker, when they're doubting you because of what you do. Show these motherfuckers what they came to see today. 100%. And so that mentality I take in business and in the weight room, and I've always had. And
I think that's the biggest thing is I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I learned about life from lifting was that it's what you bring to the table.
Yeah, dude.
You know, and if you have adversity and you have like hesitation, that's half the reason most people are not successful.
Dude, guys beat me in the gym constantly in the crew, and then when it comes to meet day, they know they've got to fucking bring it. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it 50 out of my ass. Like I do it all the time.
Level. Yeah, you have that other switch that just sometimes you don't even know if you can train it. I think you either just have it or you don't.
I think you can. I think that's part of it. I think it's learned a little bit. Like I think it's part of confidence. I think there's a confidence that my daily habits, man, I've been doing this for so many years. They're all based around building confidence. Confidence in my business, confidence in myself, confidence in the gym stuff. Like it's all based around that. So I just rely on that whenever I count on me.
Yeah, I had somebody message me maybe a couple of weeks ago and it just stood out. Was somebody asked me what was the difference between squatting 1,000 and squatting 1,200, since I was one of the lightest guys to do it. And I said nothing. I said 2.5 more years of training. Because it all sucks after that point.
Yeah, it's all brutal.
1,000 feels heavy, 1,200 feels heavy. It all feels heavy. It's just what are you going to bring to the table to do it? And I think that is the biggest. They think there's some trick to like getting better at a certain level, and the thing of it is what position you're at right now. It's all about just trying to climb up a mountain.
Yeah.
Whether it's diet or business or strength, it doesn't matter.
It's still pushing the limits and being confident about it, and that's why I love lifting so much. And I think that's the other thing is like no matter what's happened to me business wise, I'm walking into a 1970s style gym just as you are, and I'm not the strongest guy every day. And I'm coaching and lifting still, and it's like. You get humbled by the weights, and the iron never fucking lies.
That's probably been the most taxing or physically, emotionally hard things about myself is that, once you get up to world record status, it's almost nearly impossible to find training partners that are better than you.
I haven't hit that, so I'm not sure, but I understand that.
But my point is I remember coming up through the ranks, it was easier trying to chase Chuck. It was easier trying to chase John Stafford and all these guys. When I got to the point where I was one of the top guys,
you're getting chased.
Now you're trying to stay on top, and it's coming all from inside. There is no external environment that's going to make you better because if you're looking for people that are stronger than you, you're talking 5, maybe 6 people in the world.
And
and they all live different places. There's no way you can train together.
Well, that's one of the reasons you brought me in.
Right.
That's true. I mean, that's you think about that, and that's why I kind of like being. Most of the guys, I'm 40. There's another guy that's 50. Everyone else is 25 or under. I love that because it makes me like
stay
fucking
younger.
chase these guys.
Younger.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think one thing people want to know is, and like I said, you're pretty famous for is how do you stay lean all year round? I think I've gotten to the point where I've been dieting for 13 months and I'm starting to get pretty leaned out for being 260, but. I've always known you as the guy that just stays shredded all year round.
So I've done some, I went up and down a few times over the last probably, so funny, when I originally went to West Side, I would go on Wednesdays and Fridays with Tim for a while. Fucking I ended up weighing like damn near 240.
Yeah.
And Amy was still calling me the lean guy. And I was like, oh. And so that's the heaviest I'd ever been. And dude, I had like cottage cheese, like cellulite. Like I'm not supposed to be that big.
Yeah.
Just straight up. I dieted back down when Musclepharm started getting popular.
This was what year?
This would be like 2010.
Okay. I was thinking 9, so yeah.
10. So 9 or 10. I went down pretty lean, and I started hitting some of the magazine stuff, and I started putting my foot on the gas because I knew that was going to be real popular for my business. I still competed in powerlifting, but that was kind of like where I really put a lot of time in.
Yeah.
And then I've been as heavy. I was 215 about a year ago because I went and did like 3 geared meets.
Okay.
And I squatted 710. I squatted 700. I did pretty good, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? My business just does better when I'm leaner. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so I made a decision to be like, have more better guidelines for myself. And I got to tell you, the numbers are all showing
which super sucks because, at the end of the day, there's so many guys that don't really know how to dial in diet, or sometimes the bloating and the inflammation actually does make you stronger.
Oh, it absolutely makes you stronger.
The average person, 75% of the people that train, it's aesthetics.
Yeah.
They want the aesthetics.
It
But
is.
in reality, the guys that put in the hard work that might look a little fluffy, all they got to do is change their diet. They're going to have 10 times the muscle that you do.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand. They see these guys in magazines like, oh, look what he did in 60 days. I'm like, he already had base muscle.
Yeah.
You already had the hard
up
part
and
done.
down helped, because I was just eating and lifting. So there's no doubt that helped. I think that, one of the things that I devised, and it's really from working with Dr. Serrano and Mario Di Pasquale. And
Which is funny, we have all the same mentors.
Dude, I mean, being in this hotbed, when I moved to Columbus, I had no clue.
Yeah.
It's I'll tell you a quick story. It's funny because when I came up here, the only thing I knew about Westside Barbell was when I was 17 years old, I did a meet at a place called the Fitness Pavilion. And it was in that trailer park in Wintersville, Ohio. I don't know if you ever went to any of those meets with those guys, but it was the day Louis benched 600 on his 50th birthday. I was there.
I remember that.
So he did it in a denim.
That had been, what, like 05?
Man, no,
06?
we're talking like 98.
Oh, that
So it was way before you.
Yeah.
So we're talking when Louis, maybe it was when he turned 50.
Yeah.
Probably when he turned 50.
Yeah, because I remember when he squatted 900 when he was 55, and that was like a...
So I saw it, I just remember I was in this gym. It was my second competition of mine ever. So I'm like, maybe 18 years old.
Yeah.
And all these big motherfuckers roll in. Louis brings his own fucking bar, of course.
Right.
And I don't even know what I'm witnessing.
Uh-huh.
He fucking, benches 600, jumps up, and it's Tim or Chuck or one of these guys. And I'm just like, where the fuck does biker gang come from?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are all these strong guys?
Uh-huh.
And that was my first kind of like understanding of like, okay. And then when I moved here and started to understand like the Arnold Classics here, West Side's here, shit, this is where but I didn't do that on
Old school
purpose.
bodybuilder, Francois was here.
Yeah, Mike Francois was hot right at that time. He had just won the Arnold. So I didn't realize, and Mike Davies I kind of knew of from paying attention to NPC. I didn't realize what I was really walking into. It really wasn't by design.
No.
I went to the, my wife had a friend that worked on campus, and he said, hey, I know your boyfriend's into bodybuilding. He goes, I'm friends with the people that run the Arnold Classic. Do you think you'd want to sell programs? So I'm like, she tells me, I'm like, hell yeah. Like, and I got like a VIP pass. So 1999, 2000, I'm selling programs with the Arnold, bro.
Right.
I mean, you fast forward to 2010, I'm the biggest sponsor they got.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was a wild fucking ride.
That's a big 10 years.
Dude!
That's just totally crazy.
I'm standing by Arnold handing the trophy to Dennis Wolf. Like, I'm
crazy.
like, what the fuck is going on?
I know, that would be a fucking mind blow.
It was a mind blow. And as his business partner. It was a wild ride, but it was so cool, and I didn't realize how big Columbus. I mean, it was massive for me, man.
And what's weird is it all started from Lorimer.
Yeah.
You know, Lorimer brought. I don't know a lot of people know this, and maybe you can, since you're more friends with him than I am. My whole thought pattern is that Lorimer helped bring Arnold to America. Mm-hmm. And Arnold always remembered that for him, and that's why the Arnold Classic started here. But do you know anything about that?
So what Arnold told me and Lauren both said was basically Arnold came here in '74 for the Mr. Olympia.
Yep.
I actually have one of the vintage T-shirts.
That's badass.
And he said that Lorimer ran the shows so well that he was just blown away.
Yeah.
And he came to Jim and said, "When I retire, we're going to run shows together." And Jim was like, okay, cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
now, give everybody some background. Lorimer owned all the world gyms, right?
So Lorimer owned all the world gyms, and Lorimer's biggest thing that a lot of people don't know is he was responsible for helping women's track in the Olympics. Like he had a passion for women's sports, which is really interesting. I didn't know that till I got to know him a little bit. He told me the whole story when I went to his office. And so he's just been in sports. That's why it became a sports festival, because it wasn't just bodybuilding.
Yeah.
He had a lot of impact in a lot of different sports. And what Arnold always said is, to this day, I mean, they do that thing does bazillions of dollars,
Oh, yeah.
bro. They still have a handshake deal.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a contract.
Yeah, there's no contract.
There's no contract.
And he still stays at his house when he's here, correct?
I mean, it's their friendship made on Arnold saying in 1974, whenever I'm retired, we're going to run a show together. And then he said, Arnold retired and literally came here a week later and had lunch with him and said, and this was years later, and said, okay, when do we start?
82?
Yeah, something like that. He's like, so when do we start the first show? And he was like, dead serious about it.
Yeah.
So it's wild, and that's what I love about Arnold is, man, the way that he operates is really OG on your word.
Yeah,
type
tight
stuff.
circle.
Yeah, man,
And that's how it should be.
Yeah, it's cool.
Too bad you can't run business like that all the time.
I know, right?
You know. So
nice.
Arnold started that here because of Lorimer.
Yeah.
So give us some. You've done business partners with him and stuff. Give us some insight on how he got that to evolve to such a big show. I mean, obviously he was popular, but I remember going to the Arnold in '98, and it's not nearly what it is now. How did that evolve to be in such a big show?
It's just like anything with Arnold, right? This is what I love about dealing with him, is you deal with Arnold and you realize there is no ceiling, bro. Like I'm talking even as cool as I think I'm getting, or I there's no ceiling to my business. There is a it does not exist for this guy. Mm-hmm. And so I remember him saying, that we're gonna be the biggest show on the planet, which happened fitness wise. It's the Super Bowl.
I mean, if you win the Arnold Classic and the strongman, back to when the WPO was around, powerlifting, and then bodybuilding, that's better than all the other.
Of course.
I mean, it's the top.
And not just the amount of people coming, like as an event is the biggest. It's the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And he says now we're going to do it on every continent.
Yeah, which is insane.
And that's what he did. Madrid, Melbourne,
Australia,
Asia. I mean, it's everywhere, right?
I know.
But when you deal with him, I'm around him 2 or 3 times a year for a decent amount of time. I go to his house for Christmas. I get to do some cool shit.
Yeah.
And it's I always come away with thinking,
you need to step your shit up.
Every time. Man.
Every time.
And I remember the first time I was we had done the deal with him, and we were working on a supplement line, and I was in town shooting some content with him. And he was like, this is probably 7 or 8 years ago. He's like, I'm having my Christmas party tonight. You should come up to the house. I'm like, all right, sweet. I mean, I'd never been invited to his house before. We just started working together. So I go up there, and I'm just sitting around, and I mean, James
Oh.
Cameron, Stallone. I mean, it's
Top.
everybody, right? And I'm sitting on the back porch. I don't know anybody except for him, and he's doing his thing. And I started talking to the cigar guy. They got the guy there's rolling cigars. So I'm just there smoking cigars, sitting on the back porch. I'm thinking, how the fuck did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, you're just like in a completely different stratosphere. That's kind of like when I went to O'Hearn's 50th birthday party about a month ago.
Oh, it was everyone was there.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there talking with C.T. Fletcher, which I never met him in person,
amazing.
but he's amazing.
Yeah.
But there's this guy sitting there. He's just salt and pepper hair. He looks like he works out, but he's not he's not huge.
Not a muscle head.
He's not a muscle head. And he's like, hey, you're the guy that O'Hearn's going to get that belt squat from, right? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, oh, that's great. I trained at his house and whatever. And you don't realize that this dude's worth like $700 million.
Yeah, dude.
He owns the place they're having the party at.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, we're running that belt squat machine. You'll love it. And I just walk away going, holy fuck.
That's the difference of
Yeah,
that LA
it's a-
stuff. Like I'd be talking to people at Arnold's, and they're like, yeah, I'm so and so Kennedy. I'm doing this. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like, it literally is a different stratosphere.
Oh,
And
God.
what I enjoy is being able to dip into that
Yeah.
and witness it. I don't really obviously
Yeah.
live in it, but having that kind of opportunity,
Yeah.
and really just to learn from a guy that, dude, I never thought I'd even meet.
No, and
to be
the average
straight.
person's never really going to meet, And what was so funny is when I went to train with Golds, I go train at Golds with Mike maybe twice a year if I'm lucky.
Yeah, it's fun.
And the last time I was there, Arnold was actually there, and he rides his bicycle to the gym.
So good.
He sets his bike on the tree that he planted 25 years ago
So
and
good.
doesn't lock it. And he's got probably a, I don't know, $5,000 bike.
yeah.
And he just lays it up against the tree and walks in. Nobody touches his shit.
He's a
well, I'm
G,
going.
bro.
Yeah, I'm going in there and like I just talk to him for a second and whatever, trying to act like a fanboy.
Yeah.
And I give him a couple of my MW shirts, and I'm training with O'Hearn, and there's a skinny guy that doesn't look like he's supposed to fit in with us, right? Like he just can't lift with us at all. And Mike's laughing at him and talking shit. He's a dude that invented Siri. And I was like, what? I mean, dude, going out there is just a whole nother level,
It is.
especially if you got the right, like with Arnold, with you got the right intake
and
to
I
it.
train with Mike when I go out too. It's a
Oh,
blast.
he's a fucking awesome man.
No, it's I just feel super blessed, man, because to learn from guys that have applied powerlifting, like anybody that's even touched West Side for a period of time, and Louis, and then to learn stuff about business and bodybuilding from a guy like Arnold, bro. I honestly think I'm one of the only people that can say that.
Yeah,
to be
you
straight,
are. You are.
which is
For
kind of
sure.
wild.
It's totally insane. Totally insane. So I know you do the max effort muscle stuff now. You switched over from the Musclepharm.
Yep.
Did you just sell the business outright and then get out of it and then start
Yeah.
something else new? How did that work out?
Long story short was basically Musclepharm had ascended to a pretty big company. And what happened was anytime you start to get that big, stuff changes. Mm-hmm. And as you, I think, have probably caught from me at this point is like, I'm like, more of like a person-to-person, grimy
Grassroots.
dude. I'm a grassroots dude. And so the things that were happening in that company as it got bigger, 5 or 6 executives, the way my business partner was acting, it just really didn't line up with my stuff. And there was some stuff that went some sides.
That's got to be really hard because you don't get to talk to a lot of people that has developed something from nothing, watch it blossom to where you're on fucking MMA, and you have the main center section of the octagon with Musclepharm on it. That's your baby. And now you don't want to be a part of it because it grows so big that you just don't like the way.
I didn't like the way.
It's totally crazy.
I didn't like the way, straight up, I didn't like the way some people were being treated. I didn't like some of the financial stuff that was happening. It just didn't line up with me.
Yeah.
And I got up every day, Matt, to make things right with people that had invested into it and been to help me and all those things. And I busted my ass. I answered every tweet, did all these programs. Like the things that I built socially for that brand were some of the most elite stuff that's ever been done in the supplements, to be straight with you. And it worked at a crazy, I had 150 million page views on bodybuilding.com.
Yeah, it's insane.
And did, all those interviews with Arnold and the Squat Every Day stuff and these things that exploded, man.
Yep.
And so I wasn't valued from board of directors and all these things that you don't really deal with when your company's like 4 to 10 million, but when it's that big, you do. And I literally got up one day and I told my wife, I said, and this is like 8 years of pouring everything in my everything I got.
I know. That's just crazy.
And I just said, I think I'm done today.
Yeah.
And she goes, hey, you ain't steered us wrong yet, so if you think you're done and it's time. And I just literally called, and the office was in Denver, and I still lived here.
Yeah.
I just called her and said, you know what? Shit just ain't lining up no more. I'll take my percentage of stock and I'll
Bounce.
tell me whatever time, I got to hold on to it, and I need to do something else.
Yeah.
It was funny because my father-in-law, he's like, so you just kind of called and said quit paying you? I was like, yeah, pretty much. I was like, it's just time for me to do something else. I've amassed enough skills. I know what I would never do again. You know what I mean, and things I would do again.
Yeah.
And these people that have followed me.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
just don't. I just don't
somewhere
think
else.
people would ever be in a position to have a business built that big and then have the sack to just completely pull away and go do something completely different. That's just fucking badass,
Thanks, man. It
because
really
I think
was-
everybody else would feel stuck.
I did feel stuck. And here's what I'm not willing to do. I'm not willing to hate my life.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's
too fucking short.
Dude, I'm just I almost like am a fucking brat about it in a way, because I understand that it's mine, and I'm not scared to hang myself out. It's just like lifting. I had this great talk with AJ Roberts one time. AJ was there whenever I'd go to Westside, and he said to me, man, I really want to have my own business and this and that. And he said, but I'm so secure in my job. I said, AJ, it's like never taking a fucking PR, bro.
Yep.
So you're just gonna go and lift the same fucking squat every time? Or are you gonna go this is the same shit.
Yeah.
You gotta go to the unseen. You don't know what's there.
Right.
But the path you can see. You gotta be able to see through the trees. And I just believe that I could start a membership website with the amount of people that have known me and had really good progress with my training.
Yeah.
I knew that I could have a non-compete, and eventually I would go direct to customer. I didn't want to deal with retail. So I knew what I wanted to do. And one of the things I was real proud of is I signed with Reebok right out. Reebok gave me an endorsement contract because those shoes, I had yellow lifters in the Squat Everyday program, did 50 million page views. I was selling lifters to guys that did an Olympic lift.
I've never really had any personal connection with Reebok other than through Mark Bell.
Yeah.
I'm sponsored with Slingshot, so I can get whatever I want from there, and they'll send me Reeboks occasionally. But that's why I'm always such a big proponent of people supporting Reebok when they can, because Reebok's the only fucking shoes that's ever tried to give back to lifting.
Yeah, dude.
Tried to sponsor
It
people
was
that
awesome.
are into ultra fitness. All the rest of it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, they really have never tried anything for serious lifters.
No, dude.
Reebok's in my opinion, one of the top shoe companies just because of the balls they've had to create those kind of shoes.
Absolutely.
I've never watched a basketball game where it blew out the side and almost injured one of the most important basketball players in the country.
Reebok showed me love, man. So like, you think about like my wife got her master's degree in education. She was a teacher. She did that for a few years, and my Reebok contract was bigger than she ever made with her degrry and all these things. And it's like, she was like, that's fucked up.
The value of it.
But
I know.
it's unbelievable that they would show a lifter love like that. And I was like, we were tripped out by it and blessed, because it was just, I'm walking out of a situation where I'm limited to what I can do. So I was able to start Cory G Fitness, and I was able to sign with Reebok, and then I couldn't start Max Effort for like 9 or 10 months. But to me,
so they had
that wasn't even
that
long.
set up kind of like what the strength coach does. So did Musclepharm give you like a certain buy time where you couldn't really start up anything new for a while?
It said, I'm just a guy who follows the rules for the most part. I like to break a lot of them when I know.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that kind of shit, I was like, I could only talk to Arnold about certain things because he was still involved for a little while longer. I couldn't do any supplements, and I just flew by what I said. And then when I brought everything out, then it went really well. So.
Can you go back for a moment? What did it feel like the moment you got off the phone with them? What did you feel like in that moment after you talked to them and told them I'm done?
Yeah, you know what? It was.
It's got to be like a stale point for a baby.
There's like a week that was in I want to say mourning, but that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
Because dude, to build something like that, it's extremely stressful. A lot of people don't understand, like, this is why, like, I deal with some shit nowadays. It's like some chump shit, to be honest with you. Like, I don't even like stress it out.
Yeah.
But I'm dealing with like owing people like $700,000-800,000, and you're raising money, and then you're selling $1 million a day. Like, dude, it's like an entirely different level, right? That I could never. You can't even explain it to anybody until you experience it.
Yeah.
And so when I was doing stuff like that, and really the real problem was we were trying to be a $1 billion company.
Yeah.
So when you're pushing on the gas like that, eventually you have to pull back the reins at the right time, and those executive team, and me included, we didn't do that at the right time. So we made some, and it wasn't all entirely my decision, but we made some mistakes to where Musclepharm's growth was starting to slow, but we were still spending. So that business, if you stack that business up, even though I sold $500 million in supplements, which is wild to even say, and you stack it up against my direct-to-customer business, this one's more successful. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe not as many people know about it, but if you look at a balance sheet,
it's way more
but it was
successful by percentage-wise.
Yeah, but my thing was like, I wanted to say one motherfucking time, bro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw them fucking dice off the wall, and I'm gonna try to be the fucking biggest and baddest motherfucker, just like you was in powerlifting, and go for it all. Hey, and some say it works, some
But
say
you
it
know
didn't
what?
work.
You can't. I don't think you can sit back and be completely satisfied with your life if you don't push the gas 100 miles an hour, at least for a while in something.
Oh yeah,
Like,
and
I think so many people go to the fucking nursing home depressed because they look back and go, man, if I just gave that 100 miles an hour for a couple more years, what would it have been? And I never wanted that, to look back and
I'm
do
not
that.
willing to have regret.
People
man.
are like, oh, Matt, I've been semi-retired. I still train like a fucking idiot, but semi-retired for a
all
year
will
and a half,
forever.
right? And they're like, man, don't you miss like pushing the numbers? I'm like, dude, I pushed my body to the limit for 16 years. I was top 5 in the world for 16 years.
Yeah.
Like, people don't realize, like, dude, like, I gave it all I had.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of relaxation, probably like you had with Musclepharm,
Yeah.
where you knew you threw everything you had at it, and
Everything,
it
bro.
did what it did, and that's what it is.
And honestly, back to your question, I think I had about a week where, and I'm really good friends with Maurice Claret. So Maurice has had, an amazing amount of adversity. Right now, he's built a multi-million-dollar business. He's on my podcast, Business and Biceps, with me, him and John Fosco. And I was like, I was just relying on Mo. I'd hit him up like, Mo, so he's like, look, bro. He's like, this is it. And Arnold said the same thing. I had breakfast with Arnold. He said, it's all how you stand back up, man. Mm-hmm. He said, this was the right decision. You knew it was right.
Yep.
100%. He's like, it's all how you stand back up. And even guys like O'Hearn, when they saw me back at the Arnold, I've only missed the Arnold 1 year since '99. And it's because I had to non-compete. I didn't have a home.
Right, yeah.
And when he saw me again, I could see the respect.
Yep.
This motherfucker's back.
Yep.
And it's the staying power. Like, this isn't by accident. This isn't my fucking hobby. This is what I do.
And you're like I am. Like, you can earn my respect when you've been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
You've been around for 20 years and done cool shit up and down
Yeah.
for 20 years now. I think you know your shit.
And I
You know
feel
what I mean?
like that's
business-wise, lifting wise.
And that's what started to happen, Matt, which feels good because I never really was looking for that. It's really what I do.
Yeah. And now you can be comfortable with it.
I am comfortable with it. And I think that now the amount of teaching from in the gym and outside the gym that I'm giving to the guys that are at my spot and on the internet, man, it's really rewarding.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons you learned from your time or with Musclepharm, good or bad, that you've been able to take and bring into Max Effort and your other endeavors that you're in now?
I think that the one main thing was I don't think that I had the confidence from the big number standpoint early enough. So I would like sit back and not like
And
pipe up if
hesitate.
I knew. Yeah. Different than in the weight room, like, I would be like, fuck it, you want to do it? So I think that I wish I would have like spoke up a little bit more, like, no, that ain't right. And I think that now I don't hold back at all. I have a great business. John Fosco, who I met when he ran all my marketing in the UFC at Musclepharm, I was his main client.
Yep.
He did us, Safe Auto, Xbox. He basically had 40 guys under contract. He was a monster. So he ran all of Musclepharm's budget. And so we worked together for like 7 or 8 years and always really well. And so like when we decided to partner up and do some ventures together, and the other thing is his financial discipline was just so much better than other people I worked with. Like I bought into the crazy too to try to blow this thing up to be crazy, but it's like I just think I understood, that I need to speak up more. I need to rely on what my intuition is because it's usually right. Your gut feeling's right, and just ask more questions, and not take a back seat when there's no reason. What would happen with me, and I'm sure you've ran into this, Matt, when you're a muscle guy or muscle head, or people look at you like that. I'm dealing with these Wall Street cats. They don't show me no love. They went to Cornell. But they never even sniffed the
only thing that gave me a little bit of clout was having a master's.
Yeah, I don't have that. So that at least you could rely on that. So these motherfuckers go to Cornell. They never built a business, even hit $1 million before, but they think that they can advise. I'm like, motherfucker, you ain't even sniffed what I did.
Yeah.
And so that dynamic was a little tough.
Well,
for me.
the thing of it is, I think with that situation is there's not one thing. Like, you could have high level degrees and that's great, but if you're not super strong, you may not know the fitness industry that well. No. So it's going to give you you got to have a rounded base. You got to have a little bit of education. You got to have a lot of in the gym experience. You got to have a lot of business sense.
Yeah.
You got to be able to follow your gut and take risks. Like, all those things are huge.
And I think probably people ask me a lot of time how I created this much pop around my businesses. I've competed in something every year, multiple times a year since I was 17. Mm-hmm. So I would go from powerlifting meet to bodybuilding show.
And think about it, that's 23 years now.
There you go. So I'm always training for something. I'm always training for something.
Yeah,
so I've always got something to talk about.
That's a level of respect that I think people need you just have to earn over time. And I think that's the biggest problem with guys that are younger than us is they don't want to have the patience to put in the time. And then that's where you get the respect.
They want to be IG famous at 23, bro.
Yeah. We just did that podcast with Panora.
Yeah.
And we just talked about how much different it is now, and how guys will do 2 meets and now all of a sudden they're fucking powerlifting experts. And I'm like, dude, like, no, you're not, you don't know shit until 20 years. I don't feel like I had a grasp, and maybe you can shed some light on this, but I don't feel like I had a real grasp of how to work out until I was almost out of my prime, where I had learned every bit of my mistakes from the time I did my first bench press meet at 13.
That's awesome.
And I did my last powerlifting meet at 38. And I felt like at 35, 36, I had it fucking dialed. But that's when I was hitting 2205 raw, squatting 2 world records in just sleeves. But I figured out how to recover from it. Yeah. And that's where I really realized is the training is such a process that the reason nobody will ever figure out how to truly train the smartest possible is you don't stay in your prime for 75 years.
Yeah.
If you stayed 30 years old for 75 years, you would make all the mistakes you could make and then prime it. Because it's going to take you 20 to figure it out. Now, where that 20 starts is going to depend if you're 50 or if you're 40 or if you're 35, right? So when do you feel like you had a good grasp with your team on how to apply the right methods to get them better?
Honestly, Matt, it's right now, which is funny.
And you're 40.
And I'm 40. Because here's what I noticed, right? This is the leanest, the heaviest, and the strongest I've ever been. Mm-hmm. And some of these guys that lift with me now, they started following my workouts in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And now they're 23.
Isn't that fucked up?
Unbelievable,
People are like,
bro.
man, I used to read about your stuff as a kid. And I'm like, when? Like when I got out of college, like 06?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't seem that long ago, but then you think about it, it's like 14 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. So I've had a base of these guys training a little bit of West Side, a little bit of 1970s bodybuilding. They have great bases, then they come in here, and then it's that intangible atmosphere that they're not, like the one kid was getting ready to take 425. It's like, motherfucker, take 440. You just showed 405. Fuck all that. Mm-hmm. And dude, the other dude's like, G says take the weight, take the fucking weight.
Yeah.
Like the guys aren't pushed like this. Yeah. That's the environment you grew up in once you got up here, but that's not, and that you have here, but that's,
a lot of times,
not fucking normal.
Yeah, a lot of times Chuck and George, when you put weight on the bar, you didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
they just based it on what it looked like.
That's what I said, just
there
fucking
wasn't a pound.
It.
There wasn't a pound number. If you took 405 and was like, boom, they're putting 500 on there. It's not like, oh, let's try 425 for a PR. They don't even care what your PR is.
No.
Like, this is your new PR, motherfucker. You know what I mean?
And I think that's obviously not normal.
Yeah.
And so and I got to experience a little bit of that, so I'm trying to create that in my own way, and it's making these guys. And so what we've been doing, and I think you'll be interested in this, so what I've found in the last 8 weeks that's worked unbelievable, and the whole crew's hit multiple PRs, is we squat 5 times a week,
which is insane.
Yeah.
Now, from my experience, like I would never recover from it, but
I'm
I know
gonna tell
what
you
you
how
mean.
we do it though. So the total volume is not as crazy, because when people think that, they think, well, you're doing some crazy, insane Tom Platz workout.
Yeah.
But we might only take 4 singles.
Yeah.
And so it's like a variation every day. So we do.
You're talking like maybe 65, 70%.
No, it's whatever you got, but I program belt, I program wraps, I program bands, I program, so it changes. So we have 5 variations.
Okay.
We do 4 front squats to 1 back squat.
Wow.
All right, so the first 4 days.
See, I've never really heard of that, other than from Olympic lifting.
I'm pretty sure I like created my own version based off what John Bros taught me from Abajev, I think his name was.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing, is I learned off John too. I went to Vegas and spent some time with him.
Yeah.
And so basically, because I wanted to learn the Bulgarian system from somebody who lived with one of the motherfuckers. And so John helped me a lot with that. So I took what I saw you guys do at Westside and what I've seen the Conjugate method in general, and I said, and this is really what changed a lot for me. I was really kind of stuck at a certain point. I had done the normal protocols and kind of and I was like, you know what? I need some shit that's kind of crazy. And I always like testing myself on that shit. So I squatted every day for like 3 years and did all these different variations. And what I come down to is like, we'll take, before we pull on Mondays, we'll take a front squat, 1 second pause. Okay. Sometimes you feel like a fucking boss, sometimes you don't. The next day, this phase, we're doing a 5 second front squat pause. Okay. Then Wednesday,
so you're changing the mode
every day.
Yep.
And then on Wednesday, because you can only build up to so much on a 5 second count sitting in the hole, bro.
Yeah.
And then on Wednesday, we'll take a back squat.
Yeah. It's gonna cut you down to 50% of your strength.
Exactly.
But you did that because you changed the mode and the time under tension.
You got it. And then on Thursdays, we'll come back to like a 3 count eccentric, and then boom. And then on Fridays, we do a front squat straight bar weight. Gotcha. So here's what I started doing, is I started waving 200 pounds of bands for a week, 300 pounds of bands for a week, 400 pounds of bands for a week. So these motherfuckers, I made a 10 and a 5 on the 4-band front squat at a 5-count pause.
Wow.
And it was everything I could do, Matt, and walking it out too. We're not doing them on the monolift.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
my people on my website can mimic it. And
Right.
I use doubled up mini bands because that's the easiest
Yeah,
way
that's
for
the
most
hardest
people.
part is trying to explain to people that you can still do what we do out of a monolift out of a rack.
So I started showing it that way, and I use mini bands because of that. So I do doubled up mini bands. So it's like 1 set, 2 sets, or say 2, 3, and 4 sets. And dude, I'm telling you, I'm guessing on the band tension, but I know it's heavier than 400 because when I unrack that bitch, it
Yeah.
punched you in the face.
Oh,
So
yeah.
So the kid that made a plate last week at four bands, he's the one that squatted 440. My best 181, Zach Matheny, who's a local trainer down here, he pulled 650 raw like it was an empty bar, and he could.
Well, I
he
think
could
the
front
big
squat
power
450.
that you've learned to tap into is that the bar teaches you to control a different level of kinetic energy.
Yes.
And then the band tension, because it's elastic, is way different acting to the muscle than straight weight. So when you do straight weight, you actually have gravity to beat only. Whereas in bands, you have to beat elasticity, which is way different.
And if 4 days a week you're getting punched in the fucking face,
Mm-hmm.
and every time we go wave back to 2 bands, the bar weight is just getting higher and higher. And when I have, not everybody made their weights today, but I had like 8 guys try over 405 on a front squat today. Like to me, that's like, and I remember some of these dudes couldn't front squat 275.
Yeah, so you figured out a way to maintain law of specificity, but you change it by changing band tensions and tempos with law of accommodation. And now you have the blending,
And we can
ability,
recover from it.
and you can recover from it.
So I'll go and squat 5 days a week, and I lunge 800 meters every day.
Yeah.
That's my GPP. So I'm on day 197. I'll hit the 100-mile mark in 3 days.
Wow.
And so what I was telling these guys before we got on is right now in the next 30 days, I'll clip my all-time numbers at 81 at 40 years old.
Yep.
With all that. So, and Tommy from West Side, I forget his last name, the Irish dude. What helps Louis. He hit me up the other day. He goes, have you ever counted? See, I don't do things like you guys do them. So he said, have you ever counted your total volume? And I said, no. Well, I did. It was 211,000 on Monday.
That's fucking retarded.
I knew you. And
So
I
he
knew
has
I
the
was,
most extreme volume I've ever heard of. You
Because-
literally should be in a casket.
So my lunge volume is about 650 reps a day.
How long do you think it took you to build up that work capacity, though? Because I think people listening to this, your normal kid's going to go, well, I'm 18. I'll start from there.
Yeah, so here's what's funny about that is people will go out and be like, oh yeah, I'll just take out a lap, and they get to 200 meters and they're fucking blown,
Yeah.
right? The funny thing is to get to 400 because I'm a decent athlete and
Yeah.
I'd squatted
And you
like,
carry zero body fat.
yeah,
So
maybe
that
like
helps
7
too.
or 8 probably or 9, but at that point I think I was doing 400 for a while. Then I weighted 400. And then I really started to understand that when I would do normal conditioning, get ready for bodybuilding events, I just looked so stringy because I'm already kind of a taller dude,
Yeah.
right? So when I started doing lunges, I just noticed I looked denser and it just transferred over.
So do you think if somebody wanted to start that type of cycle that you're doing, do you think that a 2 to 4 year progression point is probably what it's going to take to be able to withstand that volume?
I think and recover and be like normal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it depends on the athlete.
Yeah.
It depends on. So here's what I always think too. Depends on the other factors, stressors, the food, the sleep. And so I think that, and I kind of cheat the sleep thing a little bit just because I think everything else is so lights out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I'm like a petri dish.
Yeah.
Because as like you, I'm so, and that's why
Yeah.
when I worked with Serrano and Mario Di Pasquale, they loved it because they would send me a protocol. They knew they were going to get back real shit.
And they
from
didn't
me.
have to worry about the variables. And this is where everybody
There
fucks
you
up.
go.
We write programs for people. You write programs for people. It's really the magic is outside those other 23 hours of what are you recovering, and are you pouring water on the plant, or are you setting it in a fucking desert? And most people are setting it in a desert, and they think all the magic is in the volume, and and it's really not. It's all in the other intangibles.
I'll tell you what's interesting is about the essential daily conjugate squats, which I'm only doing them 5 days a week. I'm taking the weekends off squatting, but still lunging.
Yeah.
At this point in my career, my metabolism is by far the fastest of my life. Now, I used to take the weekends off of lunging, and when I kind of cut that, and really where that came from was I was dodging GPP stuff, and my weight was up a little bit, and I was just like, and I try to look at my life like this. I'm like, what should I be doing that's hard that I don't want to do, it got me too comfortable? Because once again, when you get to a certain level, you got to play these mind games on yourself to push yourself. And I realized I was like, I'm doing 400, 3-4 days a week. 800 is the magic.
Yep.
And day 5, I was so embarrassed how sore I was. I couldn't even fucking get out of my car, man. I mean, it was.
We've all been there.
Oh, dude, I'm like, it was unbelievable,
brutal.
man. But day 197 today, and I told myself, if I can make 100 miles, I think all my numbers will come back. I think I'll be as lean as, for marketing as I need to be. And I think that all my people will get better results if they fucking get onto it. And all those things have happened.
So give us an idea of what time you go to bed. What time you go to bed?
So the earliest I go to bed is 9.
Okay.
The latest is 10:30.
Okay, so you get to bed pretty
so
early.
I literally try to listen to myself on what is happening.
Yeah.
I have 3 children, 5 businesses. What if I'm like last night, I got home from Nashville. I drove 6 hours yesterday. I told my wife it was like 8:45. I'm like,
Toast.
I'm toasted. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to get up and train tomorrow and be effective at this,
Yep.
I just got to go to bed. I'll spend
Yep.
some time with you tomorrow,
Yep.
and so I try to do my best on that. But if I cheat at the 10:30 too often, I pay for it.
Yep, I think
And I get up
we
at
all
3,
like that.
I get up at 3,
and a lot of that's
3:05.
because we talk about that. Charles Poliquin, my mentor, used to talk about that a lot.
Smart
was
dude.
every hour of sleep you get before midnight is twice as recuperative as after, but you don't really get the big hormone push for recovery if you're not in REM sleep by 1 a.m., which means you need to be in bed by 10. So see, you figure that out without even.
I'm maximizing,
You know.
and so that's what's interesting about me is because my application shit's so dialed in.
Yeah.
I don't really know a lot of the reasons why some of it works. I just know it does.
Right.
And the average public, some people care and some people don't care.
Yeah.
They just say, I want to do this and I need this. No one else can teach it to me. And so literally a lot of my successes come on because of my own self.
Yeah, and your
And
structure.
obviously there's variables to other people because they're different. But the average guy that follows me, that comes to me for advice, is a dude that's trying to drop 20,
Yep.
wants to deadlift, 500,
Yep.
and wants to find a way to maintain it all year round.
Yep.
And that's where my sweet spot is.
Yeah. So give us an idea what your average diet looks like from when you wake up to go to sleep. What do you?
So that is the one thing I have to kind of hold back on because that's my main sauce for my website.
Oh, okay.
But here's what I'll tell you though. When this is where it came from. So I created this thing called Anabolic Fasting.
Yep.
And what happened was people, Twitter is where I got popular at originally because I would always answer people back. All these motherfuckers were asking me about intermittent fasting. And dude, I've been following 5 meals a day
Right.
for 15 years. I'm like, that shit's fucking stupid. And I was like, but people kept asking me. And I was like, you know what? I was like, let me fucking give it a try. I'm just not going to tell anybody. I'll just test it out. Because that's how I did everything else.
Right.
But by default, I ate similar to how I learned from Mario. And there's a lot of, the anabolic diet is a lot of the basis of it. But all the dairy and all the sugar-free stuff and a lot of stuff that Mario used, and it's got a little outdated. I had to make some changes. And so I put together a fasting protocol that had high fat, had some insulin spikes and some things that similar to Kiefer's stuff a little bit, but a lot of my own. I call them Cory G twists. And I just was fucking around. I was like 210 when I started fucking around with it. And then it was like, before you know it, I was like 185 and I was like eating chips on the weekend. I was like drinking beer and I was like, and the shit that was happening, like I wasn't losing track. I was still making progress. And I was like, started doing some more research, started asking Serrano some stuff. And I was like, man, if I can get this motherfucker wound right, this shit's a wrap. And I could feel as an older guy, like my hormones were up. I call it bird dogging, like, when you're like looking at your wife every fucking second, and I was like, man, my testosterone and this is all internal stuff.
Yeah.
But I went and got my blood work done last year, and I have heart disease in my family, so I was just checking, but like, my testosterone was like, nothing crazy, like right around 500.
Still good though for 40.
Exactly. And with all the volume that I was doing, my cortisol wasn't that high, and I had figured out this way to really keep my body fat low, still not be a fucking idiot in public, and not carry my meals everywhere.
Yeah.
And but that is like kind of the secret sauce of why people come to Cory G Fitness. They learn that and they do the program.
Makes sense.
And that's and honestly.
So it gives them ability. So you would say the Cory G Fitness like nutrition protocol is how to be functional in public,
Yes.
but still gain the advantage that you want in looks and performance.
Because I drink beer every Friday, Saturday if I don't have competition coming up, and I get to eat tacos and fucking wings every week. And
Sounds
dude,
amazing.
Most guys, this is what for my demo. Most guys can follow a diet like that, but they have to have something there that they can rely on. Like, you know what? I can go with my buddies and fucking hammer beers down. And so in college kids, so yeah, it's worked really well.
That's
man.
pretty impressive, man. So I
Yeah,
think,
and I'll break it down to you off camera.
people need to go onto your website though and check that out
Appreciate
because
that.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, I think I've got a lot of information. Like I said, this has been awesome. You don't get to hang out with too many people who get to do business deals with Arnold and, get to run a $500 million business and likes to lift weights.
Yeah, Cory, can you give us a rundown of where people can find you, what they should look at,
man.
the websites, all that?
Absolutely. MaxEffortMuscle.com is the supplements that we're selling now, which is unbelievable. I brought some to Matt. We deliver to your door in a burlap sack, which is fucking dope.
The burlap sack is badass.
And so MaxEffortMuscle.com for supplements now, and CoryGFitness.com for any of my training protocols, like the band stuff we just talked about, or the anabolic fasting. And then Old School Gym is my local business, which is been ranked in the top hardcore gyms around. It's a lot of fun, which we need to get Matt up there next, which would be a lot of fun.
So what we're gonna do is here in the next, I'd say, month or so, when the Arnold cools off, I'll get my fucking lazy ass up and come in at a 4 a.m. But we'll do the 4 a.m. here.
Yeah, no. So I haven't asked for you. That was one of the things when I come down here, like what I think I could use help with, and that's why I texted you about learning from you, because I want to take every advantage. These guys are getting ready to ascend to the next level.
Yeah.
And if I have somebody with your knowledge can watch a squat session and say, hamstrings, glutes, back, and help me assess where these guys' accessories.
And that's where I think people miss out so much, is that the ability to assess someone's lifts and know where their weaknesses are. They're worth their weight in gold, especially if they know what the fuck they're talking about, because there's only a handful of dudes in the country that really know what they're saying.
And I know you do, so I'm going to take full advantage of that so I can learn also, because I'm confident in it, but having a second opinion.
I'll give you a hint. You can take somebody and block their whole body out and watch their foot.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll tell you off camera.
All right, perfect. I love it.
But foot pressure tells you everything of what's going on with the deadlift and the squat, and exactly which muscle you're using at what time. So I can almost take somebody and block their whole body out and just watch their foot while they squat and tell you exactly what the rest of the chain's doing. It's the same thing in the bench. Whatever the hand's doing, everything else is either doing completely right or wrong.
Interesting.
Right?
And so I think that'll help take our guys to the next level.
For sure.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me in, man.
Yep. So we'll talk to you guys later, and take a look at Cory Gregory's stuff on his website, and then go look at the other podcast that we just shot with Greg Panora.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Brother.
Thanks, man.
Thank you once again for joining us here on the Wenning Strength Podcast. Don't forget to check out wenningstrength.com and wenningstrengthmedia.com for all of your training needs. And while you're at it, subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. And if you get a chance, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time on the Wenning Strength Podcast.